Ralph Langer on the Fishbowl. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for taking the time to swim in the bowl with me.
Okay, we're here at the Dawn of the Dead reunion.
Living Dead weekend in correlation with the Steel City Con.
Yep.
It's a great time. We have a number of people, a number of guests here. A few of the Jasons, some Michael Myers, some Leatherface, people from Evil Dead, and of course the whole reunion from Dawn of the Dead, most importantly.
And Herschel was even over here. They
Yeah.
got second generation zombies in The Walking Dead.
Right.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, what got you interested in film?
My dad, he had a Super 8 camera. He took movies around the time of World War II, and my life was documented when I was a little kid. And when I was in 7th grade, we had a tornado, and he let me take the Super 8 camera and film the aftermath. And I made every mistake that you could make in filming it, but I got an interest in movies from him. He would tell me, oh, do you see that guy, Boris Karloff? He played Frankenstein. And I'm looking at him. He doesn't look anything like Frankenstein. How could it be him? So he got me really curious, and it snowballed.
Awesome. So what are some of your favorite films?
My favorite movie of all times is Cinema Paradiso. It's an Italian film, but if you love filmmaking, it's a movie about the love of filmmaking. And even though it's in Italy, when you see it, it's one of the most emotional films that you've ever seen in your life if you like movies.
Awesome. So let's talk about some of your experiences with George Romero. Obviously working on Dawn of the Dead and getting to know George. Do you have any personal experiences you want to share?
Well, this might take a little bit of time. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. Basically, I taught filmmaking at the high school level, and the English teacher came and told me that they were looking for zombies at the mall on the weekend because they were filming a sequel to Night of the Living Dead. I went to a party on Friday night and told my friends, and a couple of them said, oh, we should go over. And I'm thinking, I was at school since 6 o'clock in the morning. I was exhausted. There's no way I want to stay up all night. And I didn't want to go, but they talked me into it. So we got to the mall, and the first person I saw was Cliff Forrest wearing a Dawn of the Dead t-shirt, and he was on the crew. I couldn't believe it because I hadn't seen him in 2 years. So I went over and we talked, and we were glad to see each other. And he said, oh, I want to introduce you to my sister, Christine. She was assistant director on the film, Christine Forrest. She eventually married George Romero, and she was an alumni of the high school I taught at. And when she found out there was a filmmaking class, she was thrilled, and she introduced me to George Romero, he was the nicest guy you'd ever want to meet. And he said, well, why don't you come back again next week and we'll shoot you. Basically, with squibs and everything. And I'm thinking, God, I love movies. I've never seen how squibs work. I'd like to learn that. So I was really happy at the offer. And I had my Super 8 camera with me. And I said, I'd like to make a little behind-the-scenes movie I could show with my students, my film students. And he said, oh, sure, no problem. Just don't film whenever we're doing sound shots. So basically, he was very friendly, and he let me film, and we took photographs. And the next time I came back, they rigged me up and shot me with squibs, so I learned how that is done. And another thing that's kind of unique is I forget if it was in the break between Christmas and when we came back in January, or if it was afterward, but they had a screening for Martin, and the phone rang at home. And when I picked it up, it said, hey, this is George Romero. I don't know if you remember me. And he said, we're doing a cast and crew screening for Martin. Do you want to come? So he personally invited me to come to the screening, which blew me away. And after that, he invited me to bring my students to every movie that they filmed in Pittsburgh as a field trip. So every Romero film, my students came, spent the day on the set, watching them film. He answered questions for them in between the shots and the takes. He took me over to Tom Savini, and he showed the students the effects that will be on the film and how they were making them. A lot of the effects crew were almost the same age as my students, and they got along perfect because they all made movies. And I just look at it, what director takes the time to show high school students how movies are done with the extent of that he did. So to me, he is unbelievably friendly and nice, and as open as anybody you'd ever want to meet. He's one of my favorite people.
Awesome. Last question. After working with George and seeing, the number of films he's done, just because you're in Dawn of the Dead, you don't have to say Dawn of the Dead, but what would be your favorite George Romero movie?
I think it's Creepshow. I think that's my favorite one because Stephen King wrote the script, and it's 5 different kind of movies. It has a comic book look, and everybody had a good time filming it. Like I said, my students came over for a field trip, and on Creepshow, he even allowed them to stay for the dailies. And he told them, if you have any criticisms or anything that you think could be better, I want you to tell us. So my students were sitting there with Tom Savini, George Romero, Michael Gornick, and Stephen King, and they were critiquing the movie with those people. And that was, again, that's mind-blowing to me. But it's just the whole professionality and look and clean comic book feel to that film that I think that's my favorite.
And, I would have to agree with you there. That's definitely my favorite George Romero movie, and especially since, like we talked earlier, I'm trying to develop it into a TV series, and fingers crossed, it'll work out.
That's a perfect segue for that one.
Exactly. Awesome.
One thing, I'm proud of my career teaching filmmaking. One of my ex-students is Ron Friends, and he worked on the animation for Creepshow, the wraparound segments, and he went on and did the drew Spider-Man for a living. So I'm kind of proud of what he did when he graduated from school. Just a connection.
Awesome. Well, Ralph, it's been a pleasure having you swim in the pool with me. Thank you so much, and we can do a extended interview at a later point.
Okay, well, I appreciate it, and go George Romero. He's getting a Hollywood star soon.
Awesome. That's what we need to hear.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Okay, bye.